time. So we're hoping that this is going to fill out the roster and let them do the work they need to do.
Great. Was there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the appointment of Caden Broder as DPW equipment operator effective September 26th, 2023, pending outcome of the pre-employment physical, effective through June 30th, 2024.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and second, any discussion? Hold up.
I just have one question. Why is it just through June
I agree.
30th of 2024? I saw that in the agenda. I was going to ask you.
Oh, because he's going to be part of the contract. He's going to be union. Right?
But that doesn't make it, it still doesn't mean he won't have a job. I mean, that makes it sound like his employment's done June 30th. The way that sounds worded, though. It's just the way I read it.
Most town employees without contracts are appointed each year.
This for the last hire we didn't, so I think it's new to me.
So he is going to be a member of the union or is not?
He is going to be a member of the union.
I
And it is a 3-year contract.
Yeah, but we don't appoint full-time employees.
It's just an employee.
It's just
I think
an
we're
employee.
mixing apples and oranges.
Bud has a very good point.
If we don't sign a contract with the union, they don't stop being employees on June
Yeah.
30th. They just continue working without a contract. So I don't agree with the date on there. I think it's just, we're appointing him, he's hired, and that's it.
We're appointing him as an employee effective
Yeah.
September 26th.
Period.
Okay, so we'll revise the motion. So we do?
I'll make a
Okay.
motion, we appoint Caden Broder as DPW equipment operator effective September 26, 2023, pending the outcome of pre-employment physical.
Well, we were already, we have to take a vote on the other motion if we want.
Well,
We can amend it.
yeah, if that's a friendly amendment, whoever moved and seconded it can just agree with the friendly amendment.
Yes, I agree.
Yes.
Okay. So we're now with the friendly amendment of effective September 26, 2023, pending outcome of pre-employment physical.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion is second. Discussion? Hearing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Hall. All right, I'm going to ask if we can just hold off on Jacob Soldado for a moment, as the chief is double booked right now and she would like to present him to the board. So we can move to the next one, Mr. Hutchinson.
Yes, we have with us this evening Rachel Branch, who would love to volunteer for the ADA committee. And that is an appointment until June 30th.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Hello, Rachel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
To be reappointed in June for the following year, presumably.
yeah.
Unless you don't want it.
That committee's doing some tremendous work already and always look for more volunteers, so thank you for that. Thank you for stepping
Public
up.
service is very important to me, and I'm happy to be part of this committee. Thank
Great,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a motion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the appointment of Rachel Branch to the ADA committee effective September 26th, 2023 through June 30th, 2024.
For a second?
Yes, second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. So we'll just still hold off on Jacob? Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
So we'll move to number 7. Jacob, just hang in there. I know you're probably on the train coming back from New York City, so just hang tight. And thank you again, Rachel, for anything we can do to help you in the committee on the ADA. Let us know for sure.
I volunteered for a couple of more, too.
There you go.
So I'll be back here.
Excellent. Even better.
Excellent.
Number 7, the accept Making Your Senior Center Talk of the Town grant for $8,000. Oh, that's
Yes,
good.
it appears this grant was given upon the conclusion of the project. So more of a reimbursement.
Okay.
Okay, great. Is there a motion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the grant in the amount of $8,000 for the completion of the field demonstration project, making your senior center at the top of the town.
I will second that.
Motion is second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Motion carries. Number 8, the request for support for advocacy regarding electricity aggregation. Mr. Hutchinson.
Yes, and we have Denise Allard from Colonial Power with us. Denise, can you check, can you unmute yourself and check our sound level here?
Yep, hi, good evening.
Great.
Mark's on as well.
Okay. Hello Denise, hello Mark.
How are you?
Oh, hi, Mark. Sorry, I didn't see you in the corner there.
No problem.
Okay. So what's next on this?
So we're trying to do tonight, the Department of Public Utilities has issued some guidelines, and these guidelines are fairly harsh, and we're looking for just some support. By harsh, what I'm saying is they're trying to impede on what we consider to be your rights under the current statute. So we have some legislation in front of the TUE, or the Energy Committee, and we were wondering if the board might support some language that you're in support of Bill H 3852 that elevates that bill further, so that if these guidelines were to go through, we always could implement the legislation that would overtake these guidelines. I don't know how much detail you'd like us to get in. I'm more than happy to really dig in, but that's the 20,000 foot view. The department guidelines are a little bit, what I'd say, intrusive. They're overstepping their bounds. They're doing what a regulatory agency does. They're regulating, and unfortunately for them, MuniAg is about deregulation and giving the power to the people that live in Dalton. And you have your aggregation, and you've done a wonderful job managing it so far. We don't think you need any help from the state, and that's what they're trying to put some handcuffs on you. So from us, what we're looking for is you to vote to sign on to a pre-constructed letter for the legislation should these guidelines move forward the way they are. That's really what we're asking. And as I mentioned, I'm more than happy to give you the actual details around it. I don't know how much aggregation talk you're willing to take. I'm more than willing to tell you some of the things that they're looking to do. We think it harms aggregation, your ability to do what you've been doing the last 8 years.
Sure, why don't you go over a few of the key points? And I was under the impression that you also had a letter to the Department of Public Utilities, and I'm not sure that we have that.
So we have both, just so everyone knows. We're participating on both levels, is what I want to say. So we're trying to get them to change the DPU docket 2367. That docket is the guidelines and the template plan. If that doesn't work, which we don't see it doing, we haven't had a lot of luck with the Department of Public Utilities. As of recently, they've kind of changed their ways. So what we want to make sure is we have a stopgap measure, so we don't have any luck at the department, but we do have luck dealing with the legislature and changing the law so it's specific what they can do and what they cannot do. I'm going to just high level pick off a couple of things. So they're saying that in these guidelines there's a template plan and some rules to follow. Well, I'm just here to tell you that Colonial and the other aggregators have been using template plans for the last 10 years. So that doesn't do anything to pick up efficiencies. They're not saying they're adding staff or doing anything. The one thing they do say is if you follow everything we do, we'll get your order in and out in 4 months. Which, just so that you understand, other states get these out in 60 and 90 days with without any template. New Hampshire and Rhode Island, they haven't been doing it nearly as long, but they seem to be a little bit more efficient at it. So local erosion. So this is the big one for me. They're telling you that one of your products has to be meets RPS or much like basic service, and then you'd have one other product. Right now, the town has been confronted the Department of Public Utilities for some 36 months waiting for the ability to offer an optional product, which they, for whatever reason, they haven't been able to rule on. But here's where it gets super tricky. They're saying, hey, if you ever change that optional product or your basic product, you need to go back to it. So right now, you could change your product at any point in time, any contract, you don't end up going back to them. So they're saying these 250 aggregations that'll be up and running over the next couple of years, we need to go back to them every time they said, hey, listen, the rec market tank, and we can add from, I'm making this up right now, from 10% more renewable to 50%. They're saying, well, you got to go ask us before you get the ability to do that. Well, what if the market doesn't wait for it? And then the market snaps back after that, and now the opportunity doesn't exist. Those are the kind of things that we see in this language that are going to harm communities moving forward. This is another, my big pet peeve, that they're trying to create the idea that you're like third-party supply, which could not be further from the truth. They're saying that, Muni Ag needs to be regulated just like a third-party supplier. When that could not be further from the truth. I want to just give you some hard numbers. So over the last 5 winters, there's been about $525 million in losses on third-party contracts. Direct to customers. So everyone here's got a phone call, something in the mail, maybe even a knock on the door, but clearly mailings and phone calls. They're equating that to what you would do for the town program. So $525 million in losses. I can tell you that just Colonial's clients alone are at $500 million in savings. Now that's since inception on all the programs, but there's a stark difference between the two because there are two separate programs that kind of at work here, and the department is trying to pigeonhole everyone into one size fits all. This is my last thing I want to mention, and again, there are more, but so right now, the big issue with the Department of Public Utilities is we think that Muni Ag, I want to use the word think here, Muni Ag is causing some of the issues with failed procurement at the department, so we want to make sure that we're protecting basic service. Basic service, by definition, is the service of last resort. But they're saying, this won't affect you, this one here won't, but if you were a new aggregation, it would. They're saying you need to pick when you're going to launch. 6 months before you file your plan, you need to say, I'm going to launch in November. But if you miss in November, you need to then wait out 6 months. So say you filed, you could be out a year before you can get in the market. And given what I saw last year, many communities actually launched to protect their constituency from the wild spikes that happen. So we just don't think that it's necessary to protect basic service. We think that at this point in time, there's no reason to not allow the marketplace to function the way it is. Because as time moves on, basic service is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. They're protecting the wrong person here. They should be protecting municipal aggregation, and if somebody doesn't want to be on basic service, that's the product that's there, make a choice or do exactly what the town of Dalton has done and start an aggregation. Completely up to them what they want to do, but I'm saying to you the choices are there, and they have been for a long time. And it's just our take, the department is now overreaching and getting into what I would consider to be your bailiwick. These should be the town's decisions and not theirs. I hope that wasn't too long.
No, it wasn't long, but I don't have enough, I personally don't have enough information to go one way or the other. I'm curious what the MMA's position is on this.
The MMA?
I'm asking our town manager, hold on 1 second.
Yeah, the MMA has concerns about the proposed regulation. They also run an aggregation program, Constellation Energy. And much of the concerns are the same. I'm not sure that they think that it's quite as dire as it might seem, maybe to Colonial, but they're definitely concerned about the regulations and plan to comment that they would not be good for municipal aggregation.
I don't know about the board, but I'd rather sign on to a letter of position statement from MMA rather than Colonial Power as a vendor.
Yeah, I could agree with that. I mean, I think ultimately, I do appreciate you guys providing all of this information and these suggested templates for letters. I would definitely need a little more information to support, you know, this level of advocacy, you know, requests,
Yeah.
to really understand where we stand on that. Don't really have enough information to form an opinion, to be honest with you.
Do we have anybody that can review this?
Sorry?
Well, I'd like a copy. I mean, it'd be nice to
Do we
get,
have anybody that we know that can review this and advise us?
I would assume that's a position of the MMA. That's what they should be doing, is reviewing these.
all we have is key areas of concern about the proposal. We don't really have key points of the proposal.
Right, I was seeing the proposal.
That would be nice to
Yeah.
have. I see key, you know, looks like this was put together by Colonial,
By
so,
Colonial, yeah.
yeah, which is fine, I appreciate that, but I think having a little more perspective would be good.
Are you saying one thing, which is perfectly fine, I mean, there's no commitment here or anything like that, we're just asking communities that have aggregation that have been successful, you know, to chime in. Are you looking for guidelines, or, you know, I certainly don't want to take up your whole select board meeting, so if you were looking for more information, we're happy to provide more information, you know, either way, just so that you can see both sides of the coin. I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you gotta get into the issues. So unfortunately, on this one here, it's not just 20,000 feet. I've given you a couple of the issues, but I could go on at nauseam.
Yeah,
Just,
Mark, I think my own personal concern on this, on me personally, you know, the board can decide otherwise, me personally not supporting this is because I don't have all the facts in front of me. I have a perspective from Colonial Power, but I have not had time to read the regulation or form my own opinion about what the regulation calls for. And I have not heard from the MMA about their position on the proposed regulations, or have had, sorry?
Something up there.
Oh, it's still here, there's lost connection on the TV. Yeah. Or have had the ability or the time to review the regulation and ask legislators any type of questions I may have, in my own opinion, but, so.
What are the timelines for
Comments?
the movement, yeah, for the comments? When's the comment deadline period?
so the comments are due, the original comments are due October 6th, but the reply comments, which is all you need to reply, is not until November 6th. And then there's a Senate TU hearing on the 27th, and then there's they're not getting along at the House and the Senate right now, and then there's a House meeting in the TU on October 12th. Again, that's going to be a longer, drawn-out process. I expect that the department may move rather swiftly on these guidelines, and if anyone knows it, there are already comments in the document 2367, which is those guidelines. And I can ask, I know that Adam was going to file, the new president was going to be engaged. Denise, I'm sorry, but do you remember if he was going to file comments for the...
They're going to file. I think they're still drafting. We were going to share back and forth once available. I've been in touch with their legislative aides. So I shared with the MMA what you have in front of you at board, and we were going to share our draft comments once complete and vice versa. Yeah.
So I can tell you that the Energy Committee at the MMA had Jonathan Goldberg. He's the chair of he is the general counsel at the Department of Public Utilities. Give them a presentation, and they had a back and forth. Just something for you to know, in case anyone has any. If they are asking questions and doing all the right things, as far as I'm concerned, they're getting educated and up to speed on what the asks are on the department here and the guidelines and the template plan.
Yeah, we've also been in touch with Berkshire Regional Planning Council, and I know I believe they plan on filing comments as well.
So we have till November?
Oh, sure, yeah. For the guidelines, absolutely. November 6th is your deadline.
I mean, I would propose that if we can get a little more information,
Yeah.
and maybe put it on the next regular select board meeting on October 9th, unless anyone has any objections. Maybe we can review it in a little more detail and maybe take a vote that night.
I think that's fine, because just a quick Google search gives me a different perspective than what's being presented tonight.
Yeah, I want to know
So,
what are the reasons for the regulations, a little more of the other side, the argument, what are the regulators arguing for, really?
right. Any objection if we table
No,
this?
I would table it to next
You
meeting.
good?
No, sounds
Okay,
good.
yeah, table to the next meeting. Okay, thank you for the time and thank you for the information. I personally was unaware of this, but now I'm gonna learn more, so thank you.
Yep, thank you guys very much.
We appreciate, if you need anything from us as far as just the guidelines, we have them all. But again, it doesn't come with any explanation, which I apologize for, but it is what actually is in the new guidelines. If you need it, we get happy to send it over.
Okay,
Mark, can you send me the docket?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep. I'll get that out to you in the morning.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, we're gonna go back to the appointment ratifications. Chief, if you're all set? Good.
I'm on pause in order.
You're on pause on the other one? Okay. All right. Okay, so the appointment of Jacob, or how do you pronounce Jacob's last name?
Look at him on the train.
There you go.
That's Soldado.
Come back, Soldado. All right, coming back to New York City. I could have driven you home last night. I just came back in from New York City. Could have picked you up.
So a little quick side note about Jake. He's pretty upset that he's not here, but I will give him props because he ran in the Tunnels to Tower 5K in New York City yesterday. And
Excellent.
yeah, I told him this is what he gets for running for fun. And he's stuck in New York City on a train that's not moving, so he could not get here. So do you have, I don't know, do you have anything to read for them?
Oh, we get the memo.
Oh, you got it?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So Jake will be attending, upon your approval, the academy starting October 16th. He will start working with us next Monday, working on policies, procedures, and the administrative part of training, passwords, computer access, things such as that. Jake is a great candidate. His dad was a paramedic who I worked with frequently in my EMT days on the fire department, so I've known his dad for years, and Jake is a really great candidate for our department. I'm excited to have him on board soon, so. Even if he is stuck on a train in New York City.
Well, Mr. Esco, you want to read the memo?
Yeah, sure. Memo from Thomas Hutchison, Town Manager, to Thomas Hutchison from Deanna Stroud, Chief of Police, dated September 18th. I hereby request the Select Board to appoint Jacob Soldado of Pittsfield to the position of full-time patrolman effective October 2nd, 2023. Officer Soldado will be attending the Municipal Police Training Council, MPTC, Academy beginning on October 16th, 2023, as part of the second Holyoke ROC Recruit Officer course for Western Mass. Thank you for your anticipated assistance on this matter.
Back, we have a motion to accept the appointment.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the appointment of Jacob Soldado as full-time patrolman effective October 2nd, 2023.
Second?
I'll second it.
Motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. And Jake, just so you know that the, since you're not here, you get to clean the dog kennels for the first month, is what I told the chief.
Sounds good.
Okay. Welcome aboard, sir. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jake, safe travels home.
Enjoy
I'm sure I'll
training.
talk to you
Thank you
tomorrow.
very much.
All right.
Thank you very much, and I apologize for not being there. Thank you.
No worries, it happens, so, no worries.
Well, if you guys are okay to excuse me, I'm going to go back to the Zoom I'm on in the other meeting and then go coach a teenage girls volleyball game, please.
Okay, have a nice slow night there, chief.
All right.
See ya, thanks, Becky.
Thank you, guys.
All right, number 9, review and approve the emergency management director's proposed evacuation plan.
First, I'd just like to say, I really appreciate all the work Glenn's been doing on fleshing out the plans and making things happen, getting meetings organized, getting people together who are difficult to get together. And thank you, Glenn, for all your work.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. So, what I provided you guys is, this is kind of a long-running thing. It's a proposed addendum to the town Sept plan. One of the things I found that, while the Sept plan tells all of us employees kind of what to do in a hierarchy in the event of some sort of natural emergency or man-made emergency, really didn't give a lot of specific direction to the town. Palestine kind of put that in perspective where when they had the rail disaster there, a lot of residents are questioning what they were going to do if we had something like that. So I set forth, I met with CSX and a couple others and kind of formulated a more detailed plan. Generally what I found, and to do a Reader's Digest version of the 22 pages, is more that directing and getting a flow of the town in the event there's some sort of emergency. So what I tried to structure is, we know, and we found this out, we had a fire at Craneville in one of the electric motors, and they evacuated Craneville, and we went to the stationary factory, and then we did reunification. And what we kind of found by moving mass amounts of people under a situation like that is 90% of the people who are coming into town were coming from Pittsfield, because they all worked in Pittsfield. So, and it created a massive amount of congestion on South Street and on Dalton Avenue. I kind of applied that in the event of, if people were trying to get into town on the event of emergency, because most of our emergency resources in town will be tied up, and then we'll be calling for extra resources from Pittsfield, either the hazardous materials unit, ambulances, different things like that. So how do we keep the congestion out of South of Main? So the plan I developed and proposed was we shift the town from west to east. And congestion towards the middle and towards the three outlying roads that go east to west. You have High Street, Main Street, and Wisconsin Street. So if we take the town and we send them to those three, and then out towards Windsor and Hinsdale, that's going to shift the town that way, and it's going to allow and free up congestion of most of the resources having to come in from Pittsfield. So that's basically the maps that I drew out in the plan, and the development of the plan was centered around that. The only exception being South Street, which would head towards the intersection towards Green Ridge and then out towards East Street area of Pittsfield. I have conferred with Chief Sammons on this from Pittsfield, and also with Hinsdale, obviously as part of the plan. There's no perfect plan. This is hopefully to give people general direction. Obviously, if we had a rail disaster, we're probably not going to send people to Hinsdale. We're going to have to adjust to Windsor, because we would send them down alongside the tracks. So what I did is I broke things down, as you can see, into phases to give us more direction. Again, no plan is perfect, and some of those things may overlap. In the event of a natural disaster such as a hurricane coming in, we may have time to implement an EOC, implement certain things we need. In a rail disaster, we may not have time. We may be lumping phases 1, 2, and 3 together and working very quickly to get the situation rectified. So, but it gives us a general guideline. So that's kind of started it. It centers around the declaration of a state of emergency. It centers around the notification of the town through code red, social media, and old style media, and then implementing the plan, or whatever section of the plan that we need to apply. So, and I will leave it up to suggestions, comments from the four of you, and I know Tom and I have reviewed it and gone through the different things. One of the things, and I would say this to a major change, and I think Mark can kind of attest to some of this. Originally, the EOC, the Emergency Operations Center of the town, was the police department, with the backup being the fire department. That had a lot to do with communications at the time. Having done hundreds of these type of situations, I did not like having, number one, the EOC in the center of town. It's already going to be congested enough to try and get people in and around the center of town. Number two, it's in the police department. They're going to be busy enough trying to rectify, bring people in, and the communication center is going to be flooded. So, and I don't mean actual flooding, I mean calls and volume and questions and everything else. So the proposal I put in this is to move, and I spoke to Kelly about it, moving in EOC here. The only thing, the one thing we do have to rectify is power. And that's something that I'm going to be working on to try and get an alternate power source here. But I feel like having it out of town, having the command center separated from the center of town is something that's integral. You don't, it's too much congestion. I feel the same with the fire department. All the firemen are going to be coming in and going out to try and run an emergency operations center out of that. Even upstairs, there's tons of congestion. There's parking. There's trying to get people. I think the fire department is a better staging area to bring people in and park at the stationary factory and have rehabilitation in that at the fire department. But so in here, I thought that it would be better fit to have like the primary EOC here and probably the secondary EOC at the town garage. Now that we have cable capability, the internet capability that we ran through the buildings in town, we have a much better communication network that we can do something like that here. So that's kind of a bigger change that I suggested as I was going through the plan. So again, if you have any questions or comments to this, I'm more than open to this. I'm more than open to any suggestions or changes if you feel see something that is necessary.
On the tabletop exercise, sorry, you had a question first, but.
I was just going to ask that MEMA is establishing a regional shelter at BCC.
Yes.
So if we're evacuating west, or east rather, how would that tie in with some future center there, or you may
So
have to
most of
adjust?
the people, that's going to be for, so as you see in the plan, there's different categories of people.
Yeah.
Probably 80% of your people are self-evacuees. They're going to have their own mobile capabilities. You're going to get in the car, they're going to put their pets in the car, whatever they need, and they're going to head out of town. Whether they go to another shelter, whether they go to a friend's house, whether they, however they do, but at least they have the capability of going up and around. The critical needs people, we also want to keep, they're the people that are going to be needing the shelter. So what I did set up is, we have temporary needs shelters here in town, with the plan being, I've already contacted DUFOR, I've contacted CRT, some agencies that will be able to assist us. And of course, they're not looking, neither one of them are looking for any sort of MOU agreement. They just agreed that if we call, they're going to put their best efforts forward to assist the town. I have talked to BRTA, and it's the same. It's a matter of getting personnel in, getting them in buses, getting them in cab ambulances, and getting them into town if the need were to arise. The temporary, that would be, we get the self-evacuees out of town along the prescribed routes. Then we would begin with CRT and the buses coming in and picking up the critical needs people, those people that we can identify that may need rides, or may need to be helped evacuate Pomeroy Manor, River Run, or some of these, maybe some apartment in town. They would be taken to temporary holds such as Craneville, wherever we would establish, EOC would establish, and from then, by that time, MEMA would have BCC set up, and we would be able to then transport to that facility. We don't have an overnight facility here in town. We just don't have the capabilities. MEMA has everything in place out there right now for a regional facility should we need overnight accommodations.
Okay.
So,
Thank
but
you.
that's, I'm basing that on 80% of the population is going to self-evacuate, is going to have the capability to self-evacuate.
I'm horrible at multitasking as I'm looking at things. Do you say anything about the high school as a location for overnight? Is that feasible?
And I can't really put, the problem I'm having with the high school is its location twofold. It's one of the lowest areas in town. So I don't necessarily, if we run into a flood situation or a water situation or something like that, and two, the roadway in and out.
Okay.
It's one road in, one road out, and it's actually something that I've talked to the school about. If we have some sort of situation at the school, it's going to be a tough sell trying to get emergency vehicles in at the same time. The congestion caused by parents, onlookers, well-to-doers, responders, whatever.
Sure.
It's that one road going past the town, one whole winter road is going to be compacted. So I tried to kind of stay away from that area. And I mean, we can use it, don't get me wrong, if it's something that happens in this end of town, we have a tanker truck that rolls over in south of Maine and we need to shift everybody, yes. Nessick is available, Wacona is available, the Legion, we've established some stuff out in that end of town, but like I said, it's a tough sell right now.
Situational at best. Right?
Yeah.
I think Neskis is a better option than Wacona.
Nessick is actually 7 feet higher than
And
the
more,
high school.
more accessible too.
So it's more accessible and it's, like I said, if we were running into some major water at the dam, if we're having a problem up at the dam in Cleveland Reservoir, Wacona's going to be one of the first areas hit. So it's on the list, but it's just, I moved it down. The other thing is with the EOC is most of been talking to CSX, most of their situations involve an 800-foot exclusionary zone. So even if I were to take and draw an 800-foot line all the way across the town, most of Main Street is taken up at 800 feet. So when you're talking now, both EOCs are within the 800-foot exclusionary zone, the CRA, stationary factory, anything that we have there. So to try and pull something more back like this, it was another reason why I kind of looked at this.
Flooding could be an issue for this building too, though, as an EOC, right? If there was a flood event?
It could,
Yeah.
and that's something that why if we go back up, if it becomes an issue now, I know that we're not going to have a problem up at the town garage.
Got it, that's the backup, yeah.
That can be our backup.
So I think the great thing with these plans is, because we did the tabletop exercise and everything like that, is it gets everybody thinking, right? So just like you said, if flooding happens here, we know we got to back up here. It just gets everybody thinking. If the train, something on the train, we know we can't use Main Street. It gets everybody thinking. And the best laid plans are out there until you get punched in the face, right?
Yeah, and like I said, there's no perfect plan. And especially when it comes to something like disasters, either man-made or natural, it's always ever evolving.
Right.
And something that as long as you have a generalized idea, a general plan, and like I said, this is more, I think this whole thing came from people coming to me saying, what do I do? People want specific direction.
Right.
That's all. Just tell me I don't want to hear about what just tell me where to go and what to do and what's going to happen. And I think that's why I tried to really focus in on, that you have when we put this out, people have a map.
It's really clear.
Here, if you live, on Carson, you're going to drive up to High, out Pleasant, and out to Windsor, up and out. There you go. Okay, well now I know what to do and where to go. And we have posted on the emergency management website, we have all sorts of guidance in terms of what to take or what to do with the event evacuation, or a go kit, things like that people can still reference whatever they need. So trying, like I said, nothing's perfect, but we'll give them a little bit of guidance and hopefully.
There's all that other content you can grab offline, other areas that kind of pack it in, but to your point, it's where do I go? Because I've heard so often over the years, that like Gulf Road's the only way out. I'm like, oh, it can't be, right? So this is pretty clear.
I didn't, because of the situation with Gulf Road, we don't even know. It's my understanding that Pittsfield is supposed to be working on that, and they have a deadline in December. But I can't, it's just not feasible for a large amount of traffic.
We can't rely on it.
And I can't rely on it, especially when it's closed, because, and I don't, simplifying something, I can't tell people, well, from May 3rd to, September 2nd, you could go here, but then September 2nd to October, it's too much.
Yeah.
Just anytime you go out, you go that way, is the best thing, so.
That's great.
Excellent.
Just clarity on the EOC center, the primary, is the proposal to move what we have now over here permanently? Is that what you're proposing? And I'm asking because we're going into a strategy session in a week about looking at our overall plans and, okay,
Right.
now what do we need to make investments or go for grants or whatever the case might be? Is that what your
Yes.
recommendation? Okay.
Yes. So, like I said, it's not a big move, especially now, like I said, with the capabilities we have here. You know, you guys are running meetings here. We're devoted to even this facility has that capability. Same with over at the highway garage. I mean, you know, as long as we have a big enough space where we can put, you know, the upper end of the town, you know, some of the selectmen, somebody from the police, or somebody from the fire department, we can run communications, and we can run the overall, you know, scene or what's going on in the town, command structure of the town, then I think we're good. So I think the set even now has the capabilities, we can do it now. I mean, all that is over there is, you know, it's some computers, it's a whiteboard, it's, you know, some files.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that's an easy move.
Okay.
I'm not really worried about that too much, and I don't even think it's gonna cost, I doubt
It'll be
it'll cost
less.
anything for the town to do it.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions?
No, I like this very much. Thank you.
Yeah, this is great. Any way we can help you further with
Yeah.
whatever it may be, you
Not
know?
right now. The next step, it's mentioned in the, and I'll say this, the next step, I've been trying to whittle away at certain things, the next thing is the civilian response team. So I know there's a couple classes out there which I'm gonna try and get to, but that's the next step, is then when we have this plan in place, then soliciting volunteers to be part of a civilian response team that will supplement the police and fire department. We can train, give them basic first aid, give them some traffic control, some other things like that, that we can use them in traffic control points or to help with evacuees or whatever. I know in my budget I have prepared some money to set aside to buy some hard hats, gloves, and vests. We'll outfit the emergency management trailer, put some shelves and have that ready to go. And I think that's going to be the next step as part of the evacuation plan, and it'll be probably then B is some sort of operational plan for that. So, and then, you know, when I get to that point, I'll let you guys know, but that's kind of where I'm at now. Looks like you're going to ask a
I was
question.
gonna say, I'll bring in some of that training here, like the ICS training and
Mhm.
stuff like that.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I get, you know, unfortunately, or fortunately, I mean, the tabletop exercise was great. We did, I think Tom reported to you guys on that, we did a tabletop exercise with a train situation. It was a train that was leaking ethanol as it went from Pittsfield through to Hinsdale. And all three towns participated. We had a huge turnout, probably 60, 70 people. I don't know, there was, you know, from each town, and we all worked together and sorted out some stuff. So I'd like to do some more of that, and there is some training money available. So we will work on that. Trying to get classes here is another, you know, you gotta make it worth their while.
So, and I know you probably have the same hookup, well, he just retired. I was gonna say, Deanna's got had a good connect with me, so he just retired.
Yep, and I have some too, and I know we've been talking about doing some, when things get settled in certain sections of town, we can all sit down and, you know, we can start including the different elements in town, and then bring the training in, but I definitely want to get some stuff like that going, yes. Yeah, Bob Berry retired, was the long-standing Western Mass coordinator for MEMA. He recently retired, and his replacement is right on. He calls me once a week just to check in and, you know, meet, and he was one of the mainstays behind the tabletop, and he's working with us on other stuff too, so we're going to utilize that. It's just, like you said, a lot of the training, the closest they come is Agawam for a lot of the training, and it's just a matter of semantics of you know, we got to make it worth their while. If you're going to have 3 people show up or something, then, you know, balancing that out will work.
Well, I think the ICS training would be good for everybody on the select board too.
Yeah.
I think we can do that. We can do that. I know, I don't know if Chief McGarry, I believe Chief McGarry, former Chief McGarry, does a lot of the ICS training from Sheffield. So I know he taught me, he did my ICS 3 and 400 classes, so that's something I can reach out and see if we can get something.
Yeah.
You're great. Excellent.
Any other questions?
I'm good.
Good, well, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well-
No, this is great stuff, excited. And I think as we all know, look across the country, things happen,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
So-
sure.
Glenn,
So thank you for your leadership,
Great,
Glenn.
great.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I think a vote to.
Yeah, I'll make a motion. Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the emergency management, emergency evacuation plan as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion is second, any discussion? Hear none? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. And thank you again, Glenn. Yeah.
Thanks, Glenn.
Appreciate good stuff.
Great work.
Say anything about the CSX, the bridge?
Yeah, we saw something, I saw something about that. You had a meeting with CSX
So just to
recently?
give you guys an update, Tom and I and CSX, Mass DOT, Representative Neal, Pignatelli, Senator Mark, we kind of had a roundtable discussion about the problems on South Street and CSX Bridge. We're going to have another meeting coming up, probably we'll schedule within the next month. Everybody left there with a task of trying to come up with some ideas how we can alleviate the problem down there. We discussed everything from bridge replacement and what that would entail to different traffic measures
Okay.
to try and alleviate some of the problem. So raising the bridge is going to be very cost prohibitive. Going down lower is being looked at. DOT, Bud Hall, other people, they're going to get the plans for South Street, the original plans for the bridge, see where the footings lie, see if it can go lower. I'm looking into a traffic control situation. It's a red light system. So we have the yellow flashing lights on South Street now. Nobody pays attention to the yellow flashing lights. There is a red light system, which you can implement. It's a laser-based system that once if somebody trips the laser, red lights are activated. Everybody knows red lights. We stop everybody. And then it's a sign system that'll say, overheight violation, do not, so at least it stops people. Because I think people see the flashing lights, especially way down by Greenridge, and they don't pay attention. And they forget about it by the time they get Grange Hall Road. So little things like that. We are a possible truck ban, local traffic truck ban. We're working with DOT to see what that would encompass. So there's ideas out there, but we are trying to address that problem down there.
Structurally, though, is a bridge sound as far as the weight of trains and whatnot, or is it, or to be reviewed? Just a-
CSX is telling us it's operational. My response to that was, I drove a state vehicle for 30 years. I know the difference between safe and operational very well. Everybody told me it was operational, it wasn't always safe. So they're saying it's operational. One of the questions that Tom and I asked that they didn't have an answer for was, we were told that the maintenance section of the track, which is, you have the two tracks that cross, and then there's the section that, there used to be a third rail, they took it up, and now they use it as a maintenance for trucks to drive over alongside the track. They're told us that's not operational, that's closed. Because of the structural damage on that side of the bridge from people hitting it. If you look up, there's pieces and parts everywhere.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So, and that's what sparked a lot of the emergency, why is emergency management doing? Well, that sparked a lot of concern, what would happen when a train goes over and, or something. So, but then my question was, well, how do emergency vehicles access? If we do have something up on the track, how are we going to access it if we can't use that bridge? It'd be nice if we do that.
Right.
They were going to follow up on that, and we were supposed to get back, and I haven't heard from them yet on that. But that was one of the driving forces behind getting the firefighting unit for the emergency management ATV with the foam, so we can get up to the tracks and over the tracks relatively quickly in the event we had a disaster, because up until that point, the fire department really doesn't have a brush truck or some sort of quick attack truck that could get up and over something like that. One of those bigger vehicles trying to get over that trestle. So we are working on trying to come up with a remedy for that. I know it's a concern in town. I've seen all the memes about Donald Duck singing, do not.
I was gonna go there, but
Get
I
onto
think
this
it's
ride,
pretty
you know,
clear.
yeah, it's-
When I ran into the Pittsfield Railroad enthusiast, I was working. I don't know if you ever ran into, you know what I'm talking
Down
about?
in Richmond all the time.
Yeah, he said that there was a train derailment back there in the early 70s. 3 trains went off the track right there. And in his opinion, which would be my train expert, he said there's no way that bridge is safe.
You know, I know it's a problem.
Yeah.
We had one meeting scheduled, and we had postponed the meeting because the CSX representative had to go to Amsterdam for a train derailment. There's a 17-car train derailment right over in Albany.
That's incredible.
You know, and there was no, they were empty cars, so there wasn't, you know, it didn't make national news, but I mean, it just shows it happens close by, so, but they were, you know, I didn't feel that they were skirting an issue, or they, you know, they came to CSX came to the meetings, and they were very active within it. So I was happy with their response. They didn't,
That's good.
Do we know how many times that thing's been hit by different trucks and stuff?
So 74 times in the last 4 years.
74?
Well, there's been 75 now incidents. So 26 of those are actual bridge strikes. So where there was damage either to the vehicle or to the bridge. So there's been 26 actual strikes. The rest of the incidents were trucks having to stop in front of it, making it that far, and us having to shut the police department, fire department, having to respond, shut the road down to get a truck turned around or stop traffic or whatever. So yeah, 76 total incidents in the last 4 years.
Wow.
30% strike rate.
And I scheduled the meeting, and the next day the Ryder truck hit it. And so I made sure I sent that out and said, remember, here's a meeting reminder and here's why.
It'll be interesting how many strikes and how many of the same drivers. Yeah.
I figured I'd give you guys an update.
That's great. Thank you again. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for all your work on this.
All right, number 10, the cable advisory discussion. Mr. Atkinson?
Yeah, this came up at the request of Mr. Bishop, but I happened to be working with DCTV to try to get, they had sent a letter back in July 11th saying, well, it's time to renew our contract. And I thought, well, if it's the 1997 contract, it's a little overdue for renewal. I haven't been able to find anything since then. And you can see that this is the last letter that I sent. I sent an email before this we sent as a letter, and
We're just waiting for response from them now?
and no response yet.
Okay.
Which is odd, because they were the ones requesting.
Don't we have to have a cable advisory committee to handle this?
So
So we need to get that going again. We do not have one active at this point.
Right, so any recommendations on who would be on that would be great.
Office, actually, it's on the last time.
It was, John Ostrander, he's on it. Robert, do you know by any chance who else was on that, by any?
Cable advisory?
No, the one that made the decisions?
On our board?
No, that's just not our board.
I don't think we have a cable advisory committee.
We used to have one a long time ago. I think,
Can't think of his name. He's down in the Premier's area.
yes,
So there was John Ostrand, Richard White, and Al Nadeau.
Mel Nader.
Al Nader, yeah,
He was big into it.
yeah.
He'd probably do it again.
We just need to maybe put it out there. The one thing, we need to vote to get it going again, and then we need to research names. I will be a volunteer, I'll volunteer my name for that. The board so needs.
Is there a,
Well, that's a great start.
So we just need to vote to reestablish a cable
Reestablish the
cable
commission.
advisory
And then we need to
committee.
get at least 7 members.
Yeah, and then we can go through the appointments, right?
Right.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I was looking for a little clarity as to,
Well, the biggest
is it
thing,
the case that we didn't ever get to a contract when that,
Well, the biggest thing now, we're the only cable company that has the old coax connections, and that's why we have such poor, and if it breaks, I understand if a certain piece of that equipment breaks, we're down flat.
yeah, there are apparently no known replacements.
Yeah,
for the
we're on
modulator.
a
Does not
prayer
being
and a
used.
wing all the time.
All right, so we can do that tonight as far as reestablishing the
Yeah.
committee, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I'm asking.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I move that we reestablish the Cable Advisory Commission, effective as soon as the positions can be filled.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion and second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries.
Can we start with what used to be on the board, sending a letter asking to see if
Yeah.
they're still available?
Great idea.
Mm-hmm. That sounds good.
Any other business on that topic? Bob, was that?
No, it's just that we need to do that so we can negotiate with them too. And plus,
Yeah.
once we get this contract, we'll be able to get our own TV station. We're not gonna rely on Pittsfield. So,
Perfect. Good stuff. All right, number 11, proposal to update the town's alcohol and drug policy. Mr. Archerson?
Yes, looking at this, I noticed that it was written prior to the legalization of cannabis, and that it is unclear as to what to do in the case of the presence of cannabis, or actually anything in the case of showing up in a pre-employment physical examination. We do require the alcohol and drug test as part of the pre-employment physical examination. So I looked into it, gave you a little background in this piece, and also cited what it says in our employee handbook, and specifically the alcohol and drug policy. That policy has two parts, and the first is a general section that applies to everybody, and the second part, which is much more detailed, applies to people with CDL licenses, or those covered by the Department of Transportation regulations. I looked at what other towns are doing, and they're really all over the map. Anywhere from the zero tolerance policy to not even testing for cannabis anymore, due to the fact that it's legal. That does leave a little bit of a hole in our current policy, and under the options, I recommend adding some language that would specify, in case anyone had any questions, that reporting for work under the influence of any substance, including cannabis, would be prohibited, and proper cause for disciplinary action. Sorry, there's a typo there. Up to and including termination of employment. So I wanted to clarify that in that section. That said, being somebody responsible for hiring, I know that other people who are responsible for hiring, some of the responses I got back from the Mass Municipal Human Resources email list, just people were just saying, well, it's legal, we don't even test for it anymore. So we got back some of those. A lot of people reporting uses of gummies to go to sleep, that sort of thing. And because it's legal, and because more people are using it now, apparently, I, as somebody who needs to get people to fill positions, am recommending that Dalton no longer test for cannabis, but that we also include specifically in the policy that showing up under the influence is cause for disciplinary action.
What if someone has a medical prescription for cannabis? Can we actually say they can't be under the influence if it's medically prescribed?
Yeah, I don't think we can touch that. I think that's a...
And is there anything under federal law? Because I know hospitals are under federal law because of Medicare. So if we receive any federal dollars, I think we fall under federal rules for this.
Yes, and those involve the use or possession while at work.
Okay,
And those would still be prohibited.
right,
um,
right.
Hold on a second. So, just for the discussion, you know, we said, we were talking about having a medical card or whatever. So if you have an employee that's under the influence, but they have a medical card, you think we're saying that that's fine because they have a medical card, or are they able to not perform their job, or?
That's a question I'm asking.
That's
I don't know the
what I'm
answer.
trying to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't tend to agree with necessarily that you have to have your job performance, and I'm not saying you can't perform your job, I'm just for discussion, because I don't know the answer.
Yeah, I am not proposing an answer to that particular question here. I think that would require a more nuanced approach, and I'm happy to work further on that. I think it is something that we need to look at. I think, you know, for me, it would be the same as somebody who, well, I just had work done on my teeth, and I got a prescription for opiates. I didn't use them, but if I had, I certainly wouldn't have come to work. I'm not, you know, you're not supposed to drive.
Right.
So I don't know whether similar, there's similar, if there's similar medical conditions for cannabis or not. Happy to look into it further.
Yeah, I just don't think, you know, work-related, just like you said, you wouldn't come to work if you were using that.
Yeah.
You took that prescription.
Yeah.
Just like we wouldn't want a dispatcher taking a gummy because they have a prescription and sitting at the dispatch council there. So I think there's more to look into that.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I think there may be even, there may be more nuances that we have to look at. But I would like discussion and some kind of decision on the fundamental.
I'm not in favor of adjusting the policy because of tough hiring practices. I'm still a zero tolerance policy across the board. That's kind of my view of the whole thing. Because I don't think you can break up the medical prescribed versus not, and things of that nature.
Well, yeah, I agree. I think it should be zero tolerance while you're working, but I don't necessarily think that we need to test for cannabis for non-CDL and non-public safety employees necessarily either.
One of the problems is that now that cannabis is legal, it doesn't really fall under the language that is in our policy, which is one of the reasons that I'm proposing a revision to the policy that specifically mentions cannabis as something you can't be under the influence.
I would ask, as we do this, I would ask that we continue some review on this, because I do think that there's a federal law that restricts it if we get federal dollars. That's just not you can't be under the influence. It's a zero tolerance.
I did get guidance from town council
Okay.
who said that he did not believe that it was a legal problem in Massachusetts,
Okay.
for Massachusetts municipalities. That was Tim.
I feel like I got more questions now than I got answers.
Yeah, I mean, that's okay, we can put all the questions, we don't have to make a decision. We can
So you would
just-
send anybody down at any point for a drug test. So if you thought somebody was under the influence of alcohol or cannabis or anything, you could send them down for a drug test or a blood test or whatever you wanted as the employer.
Thing is that you could use cannabis days ago,
Right.
for example, and it'll still show up in
For a
your
month.
test, is my understanding. Whereas alcohol wouldn't if it was, previous. It's definitely, I think some changes may be necessary. We don't have a copy of the complete policy here, there's just excerpts, little snippets.
It's just an excerpt.
I-
Well,
I just have you know, if you walk this, if we walk this through, because there's more questions, I agree with you, Mark, and I think Tommy did great preparing this, so I don't think it's a
Yeah,
lot, but just starting the
This is the
discussion.
background I have for the discussion.
But if we say that we allow cannabis, that we're not gonna test for it, and then we suspect somebody's under the influence of it, what's the reason we suspect that they're under the influence of it? And if it's any other reason, you know, what structure do we have that says they are or they're not? And then we send them for a test. And Sally Jones tells me that so much, you know, Julie Smith is under the influence. Is that enough to test?
Well, I would never take hearsay, I would interview
Yeah,
the
but you would start the
person involved.
conversation with them, right? So, and that could lead to possible harassment or something from the other employee. I just think a zero tolerance is cleaner. It's just, can't do it. And it takes all that out. So, because if they can't be under the influence, but yet they took it 2 days ago, and somebody says they are, and it comes up on a test, then what do we do?
So in testing to find out if someone's actually currently if they're under the influence of THC
Yeah, if you're
at
going,
that time?
yeah, if you're going through a pre-employment physical and you found to have cannabis in your bloodstream,
I don't know enough about that.
I don't either. I have no idea. I don't know what the right
Um,
decision is here, so. Maybe we kick it back to KP Law and say, give us a new policy. Have them write it.
I mean, do they have policy templates? And I'm sure other municipalities have encountered this as you've done some research and reached out to some.
Well, I sent my draft
Counterparts.
paper to Tim, and he made some revisions to it, and that's what you have in front of you. He wasn't saying yay or nay to any of them. I think it's a policy decision of what the board wants to do.
I mean, you're just, the only change you're recommending is this one change right now?
Well, in the language.
But
Right
then it's our
now,
practice, is what you're talking about.
but including cannabis in the pre-employment physical is also current, what we currently do. It's current practice.
Got it. If you guys take a look at this revised language, I don't really see an issue with that. It's just broader.
I'd actually advise adding that language anyway.
Yeah,
Just
regardless
because
of
it's
whether we
not
test
clear.
or not.
Because the current, it, you know, you say,
Yeah, I mean, I like the, I do like
narcotics,
the
drugs, or
provision.
controlled
This
substances.
is fine.
Yeah.
This we could vote on tonight, no problem.
Because it says exactly what we're all saying. anyway.
Correct.
Right, that's
The
exactly.
testing part of it, maybe we need more, more conversation about our practice. You said you couldn't find anywhere in our policy where drug screening is outlined? Pre-employment.
All it says is, you know, well, our current practice is to require preliminary alcohol and drug screening for all employees. It's not in any written document that I could find that we do that, it's just current practice, which is, you know, that carries lots of weight. You know, I think the current policy is lacking in that it doesn't give any guidance to say, well, what do you do if, you know, for, you know, some level of something, and as Dan said earlier, cannabis can stay in the bloodstream for months. You know, so there's, I think, I think it's a really gray area. I was trying to provide clarity in a way that protected the town by saying, you can't be under the influence at work, without going into the details of the parameters of how you test for that or anything like that. Just saying you can't be under the influence award for now, which is what we have for everything else.
Yeah.
And then I think another thing to work on in the future is language to say, well, so somebody does show evidence of something, and, you know, Joe's saying, okay, zero tolerance, any evidence of anything is reason to reject. There, you know, I did do a survey of the HR people. I think you got that in your email. I don't think it's in the.
No,
Oh, yeah, it is in the
there.
packet.
Yeah.
So, it's, you know, do you hire conditionally on future tests? Do you know, there's a variety of options that are available if you do find something. We also don't have any guidance on that. So whether it's zero tolerance or something else needs to be spelled out at some point as well. So that's, it's a gap.
I think my concerns have been with the provision that you wrote in there, that's been answered. I mean, I'm more concerned about working hours, being under the influence, and
Right.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think this revised language to address paragraph 2 in the alcohol and drug policy,
I think it covers what we were
It-
talking
it-
about.
it's sensible.
I do think we gotta have a broader discussion about the hiring practice.
Hiring
absolutely.
practice in the pre-employment screening.
Right.
I mean, that, not sure if there's enough support to be making broad changes to that at this meeting.
So a couple of things. Yeah, I'm just thinking, I'm thinking 3 steps down the road if we terminate somebody. CBD and marijuana are different things, right?
Yeah,
So if I take a CBD gummy,
you could test positive.
I could test positive, but CBD gummies is that marijuana? Because our policy says marijuana. Different things.
Yeah, you could test, and trust me, there's been plenty of disputes over people testing positive for marijuana and it being CBD is making them test.
Maybe we just put both in there then, just for clarity.
Well, both are there, but
Did they miss it? No, cannabis, okay.
CBD theoretically should not have any THC in it,
Correct.
but I understand the
Yeah,
manufacturing process is not.
yeah. I think the intent of what we have here is good. What do you guys think?
I think what it says there is good, and then like I said, I think we should have a broader discussion at a later time about our employment
pre-employment screening
yeah.
and whether cannabis should be included in that. To change this, do you need a vote from the board for this policy?
Yeah, I'd appreciate making
Okay.
at least the change
Yep.
that I proposed to clarify that
Sure.
section of it.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the proposed policy revisions to paragraph 2 of the alcohol and drug policy for the employee policy manual for the town of Dalton.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion and second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Right.
And for future conversation, I don't know when, I think I would like to get more clarity, maybe even from town council, about pre-employment screening for cannabis in Massachusetts. And how that relates to federal law as well, with it being illegal federally.
Well, I know there's people who can be turned down for positions that are testing positive. At the time. You know,
Yeah.
not admitting previous use, but going for the pre-employment test and they're not getting the job based on a positive test result for cannabis.
do we want to deny those applicants or otherwise qualified for certain jobs? I don't know. It's tough to hire, I get that concern. It's tough to find qualified people.
That was one of my incentives for presenting the option.
So KP specifically talked about federal law?
They said that it was not, it would be, surprised they didn't include the quote in here.
It might be.
It would be, it would be legal.
I think you're right, because I think it's a health and human services policy, in which hospitals fall. I'm just thinking what I deal with daily, but.
Yeah, I'm happy to get more.
Yeah, I always thought it was a Medicare thing, but.
If the board's good, I'd like to bring this back up, not in the way off future, but I think we all could just do a little research on our own
Yeah.
discussion and then bring it back up.
Let's just table that one for the next
Definitely
meeting.
want it to come back up sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Let's
But
do
I don't
next
know that
board
we're
meeting.
gonna make the decision tonight.
Correct.
Oh,
We can table that part to the next board meeting.
Yeah.
I'll see what I can come up with and if I have enough for the next.
Next
meeting.
agenda?
Yeah,
Be fine with that.
If I have enough.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, good discussion. Discussion of town hall style event.
Yeah, this was, I'd forgotten earlier why this had come up. This was on an earlier agenda. The idea came from a resident who wanted a forum for, asking, typically it's asking officials questions at a public event. For my money, I've seen some pretty active citizens asking questions at the select board meeting every couple of weeks. I'm not entirely sure an event like it is necessary, but it could spur citizen engagement.
Sure.
So I'm wondering if there are ways to make it educational and informative.
Oh, Tom, I got an answer for you. So Pittsfield, we have the Citizens Police Academy, but the city also runs like a city academy where they
Which
have,
I did in Conway, yeah.
which
I'd
they
love to
have,
do that here.
we have meetings and they bring it, like last week, they brought the group of, I bet you there's 40 to 50 people to the police department. We explained what we did, the different departments. Then they'll go to the purchasing department, they'll go to the highway department, they go to meet with the city councilors and they understand how stuff gets done. I think that'd be a great project for you, Tom.
I would love to do that.
Yeah. I'm telling you, I've sat through many of those things, and those things are great, and it just gets the people involved, and you can do it here. I mean, you may get 10 people that want to see how the town runs, and they get their chances, their opportunity to talk to Bud. Bud will come in and do a presentation on the streets and how they decide stuff. They'll meet with the police department, they'll tell you how they answer the calls and stuff like that, and they'll meet with purchasing and taxes.
I'm happy to work on a town academy.
Got 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's a great end, and then to your other point, we'll always have an open session here, you know?
Yeah, it is a great point. Every 2 weeks, there is an opportunity for citizens to come and speak on any agenda item or an item not on the agenda.
Yeah.
And if that prompts, a future agenda item, then great. I mean, that's the point of it, right?
Yeah.
They do have the opportunity. I don't know if we need to create separate.
Between that and then the academy, and then we do the
We have a strategy
education.
session coming up in a
We
week
have a
too.
strategy session
It's
coming up
open.
for 3 hours, it's open meeting, and then we have also the educational forum we have before the town meeting. So I think we have a lot of different channels, but I like the academy one
I like
too,
that
so I
idea.
think it's a great idea.
And
Yeah.
the suggestion, was it so that citizens could just ask basic general questions of town elected officials as well as employees?
Yeah, I
or
think
what were they
the
looking-
intent of this one too, I remember the email that came through from the resident, is also be able to ask a lot of questions around like financial status and things of that nature, or things that we can address in all these different meetings, right? So I
Yeah.
think that's part of it as well. Yeah.
You know, I think town hall, I think elections and, you know, opposing candidates for election being asked questions by the audience. That's what I think of when I think of
Yeah.
town hall event.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that what?
No. But yes. Yes, certainly if you had more, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if I had one of those against Mark Strat, I'd still lose by 30 votes, right, Mark?
Well, next year we'll have to do one.
I'd pack the audience.
That's right. All right, so we're set with that one?
Yeah.
All right, town manager update?
I have been working with the emergency management director and town planner regarding the town's hazard mitigation plan. An updated plan is necessary to receive funding for FEMA or NEMA-funded projects such as Walker Brook reconstruction. And this update is possible due to a NEMA grant, due to a hazard mitigation grant. So great that we're getting to work on that. The plan developers are a collaborative group based on a consultancy in Northampton. They've been hired by NEMA. We're part of a multi-town group that this consultancy is working with. The consultants have requested that we gather a number of members for the planning committee, including asking whether a select board member could be involved so that there was some prior knowledge of the process and content prior to the necessary select board vote to accept the plan. So if anyone is interested in working on that, please let me or Glenn know. Speaking of Walker Brook, I am in communication with NEMA regarding advertising for an engineering firm to apply for the grant, finalize the engineering, and oversee the construction project. This is it used to be the pre-hazard mitigation grant, and now it's the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities grant, BRIC. I'm pleased to say we have accepted the low bid for sewer rehabilitation at $470,071, which after the $30,000 already redirected to paving, leaves $151,629 from that project available for other activities. This was ARPA,
Yep.
ARPA funds. As usual, and this is assuming that we choose to to free up the ARPA funds rather than to use more from sewer stabilization, which would take a town meeting vote anyway. I think I had that backwards, never mind. And I think we would spend less on sewer if we were going to continue spending it from ARPA. But ARPA gives us more flexibility. So, as usual, I will recommend spending on infrastructure, whether paving, transfer station equipment, Pine Grove facilities, or other such needs. Together with other projects that come in under budget, we have $157,409 available in ARPA funds. These need to be committed by the end of 2024 and spent by the end of 2026. The DPW superintendent is working on a list of potential projects, and I'd like to bring those forward at an upcoming meeting. The state has begun its right of first refusal process for the Barton property to see whether they want to exercise that right. This has mainly to do with their assessment of the buyer's ability to manage the APR as intended, including financial status and farming experience. Just an update, no real town involvement in that. I introduced Jeff Birch to the Executive Director and Director of Maintenance for the Community Recreation Association. We had a good conversation, and I will be working with them and town staff to improve Pine Grove Park. I hope including additional security to help prevent vandalism. This is one of the reasons I mentioned Pine Grove Park as one of the things we might spend some ARPA money on. Early indications are health insurance costs will rise more than they did last year, substantially more, perhaps as much as 9%. This is based largely on the numbers of procedures being performed in the pool, which is thought to be an artifact of the lower rate of procedures performed during the initial phase of the COVID pandemic, and is expected to peak and return to normal levels soon.
I had a meeting today for the Pittsfield's insurance, and they were also talking with the inflation, and they thought it would start, everything would start, they're facing a similar thing. And they thought with inflation, everything starting to level out, the prices may start going back down, so.
Have to see.
I have arranged for an audit of our cybersecurity through the state's Mass Tech Office, which performs this service for municipalities free of charge. There are several areas of focus. I have requested audits for both internal systems and external threats. The Town Hall project is virtually finished. The Historic Commission's things just got moved back to their room on Thursday. The final remaining item is the replacement of the glass top to the table in the Selectboard room. It was cracked during the construction.
Help the move.
We are having the contractor pay for that. Sorry?
I said, how dare they crapping out a glass top?
Yeah. And that is in process. Jeff Birch did a great job coordinating the movers and solving various problems during the move. He'll be working on some minor items going forward. The old phone lines need to be removed and some walls need an extra cleaning, but we're all back to normal operations and almost all unpacked.
Great.
Excellent.
Those are the main
That's a big thing behind us. Yep. Any future agenda items?
Well, with the Callahan room back in operation, is that something we want to talk about moving the meetings back there, or are we good where we are here?
I would like to see at least every other meeting back at Town Hall. And have one here, one there, go back and forth.
Do the first one here, the second one at Town Hall.
Yeah.
I mean, this is definitely accessible. We've been meeting here for a while. People are used to that. At the same time, you know, that's been our traditional meeting, or the Select Board's traditional meeting room for many years. Well, forever. Does anyone else have feelings about that?
Yeah, depending upon agenda, I just see this room more accessible.
Yeah.
I
Overall.
agree based on the agenda.
Yeah.
That's a smarter way of doing it, yeah.
Yeah, if we know we're gonna have a larger audience, we may just want to have it here. But we can determine that as we kind of look at the agenda and the topics.
Yeah.
Well, let us know when the glass is installed, and then we can take it up as a future agenda item, maybe.
Yeah.
Make a motion?
Well, there's duct tape now, but.
Okay.
I won't wait.
We'll wait. Okay. And then, Tom, are we all set with the structure of the agenda for the strategy meeting? I saw the agenda, but it was kind of, I don't know, I just think it needs more structure. Not time-wise, just what we're gonna cover maybe. Have you guys taken a look at that yet?
Yes. That's open to the public, is it not?
Yeah.
I don't think I have.
Well, let's do this. Let's have if every board member could just take a look at it and see if we need to add anything to it or clarity around it. But I think we know what we're gonna do. I'm just thinking more of the public so they can understand what we're gonna do.
Yeah, if you want to suggest especially subtopics under the major heading, that's good. The first item on there is an update on the master plan and progress on it. Yanko and I have been working on that.
Okay.
He's got a great presentation on that.
Good, okay.
Even for not having been here very long, he's not going to be able to give detailed updates on a lot of things, but he has a general idea of some of the things. And he's got all the high priority areas marked out and things like that.
Right.
So that part should be pretty good.
Okay.
For operations, status of operations and visions, I've got a whole variety of things that I'm planning to at least introduce for discussion.
Okay.
And if anybody has anything they want particularly mentioned in that, let me know, and I can you know, I can make sure that gets covered. Then for the long term, you know, medium and long term planning and vision, I
Yeah.
think that arises out of the,
Those discussions.
out of
And,
the previous discussion.
yeah, so you have what you need then, you for the structure. Yeah, that sounds good, well, you just phrased it. Sounds great. Okay. Any questions? Items not anticipated 48 hours before the meeting. I have one. And thank you, Bob, for bringing this to my attention the other day. This is related to a grant that Kelly Peasy is working on for the Council on Aging. And it was a request for a letter to support a grant for a hybrid program for the Council on Aging, which provides synchronous and asynchronous program through the Dalton Senior Center. So I did draft a letter, which I'll read for the board. Says, Dear Grant Administrator, the Dalton Selectboard supports the Dalton Council on Aging's application for a hybrid program for Council on Aging grant to provide synchronous and asynchronous programming through the Dalton Senior Center. We feel the reach of the COA will be highly enhanced, ultimately improving the quality of life for our over 60 population by providing opportunities for learning, socialization, and community engagement. And I just signed it. Thank you, Joe did, our Select Board. So what I'd like to do is just offer that up to accept that letter in support of that grant. I'm just going to formally make a motion to do that. Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstentions? Okay, motion carries, thank you. Any other items not anticipated 48 hours before? Okay, hearing none. Any remarks to the Select Board?
I have one.
Bishop?
Yeah, the Grove Dalton Committee is up and running again. They had their meeting a little while ago, but they got another one coming up on October 15th at 11 o'clock at the stationery factory. And they're looking for new people to come in. And anybody that is interested, they have any questions, see John Kelly, okay?
And that committee is
The Grove Dalton
Grow Dalton.
Committee, yeah. They were meeting pretty well. COVID interrupted the whole flow of stuff.
And that's a private?
Private.
Yes.
Private business?
Yeah, they actually are, they have their 503C, whatever it is there.
Oh, a nonprofit?
They're not, have their nonprofit status too, yeah.
Okay.
Great.
What's the date on that again?
October 15th.
October 15th at 11 o'clock at the stationery factory.
Okay.
Excellent. Any other remarks to the Select Board?
Yeah, I made it to the memorial, Vietnam Memorial Wall over that weekend.
That's great.
And just a big thank you to the Dalton American Legion, the Legion Riders, the VFW, and all the veterans that made that possible, because it was moving and it really shined a good light on the town of Dalton. The amount of visitors they had up there, it was crazy.
It was phenomenal when I was up there, wow.
So just a big thank you to all of them.
Yes.
Awesome, thank you. Any other remarks to the Select Board? Okay, hearing none. Announcements, annual car permits, bag stickers, recycling only car permits are available for purchase at the transfer station and on the town's website. There are numerous committees and boards with vacancies. Please see the town website for more information or reach out to the town manager's office. Is your electricity bill too high? The town has contracted with Colonial Power to provide an electricity plan for town residents that takes advantage of joining with other communities to have a larger customer base for negotiations, which has resulted in prices significantly lower than current Eversource prices. Please note this may not always be the case. For more detail or to opt in or opt out, visit the town's website or call the town manager's office. Dalton Housing Authority is seeking a volunteer to fill a vacant seat on this board. Must be a resident of Dalton. Please call 413-684-1470 for more information. The next Select Board meeting is a strategy session scheduled for Monday, October 2nd from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. And that's here at the Senior Center, right?
Yes.
Yeah. The next regular meeting is scheduled to take place on Tuesday, October 10th. Is that correct?
Yeah. Holiday.
Oh, holiday, okay. So Tuesday, October 10th, 2023 at 7 p.m. at the Senior Center. with an option for remote participation. And with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. Good night, Dalton. Thank you.